Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Interviews with the Runner Washington. Keenan Gray here, as always. You can tell I'm back home now on the west side in beautiful Bellingham, Washington. I'm joined today not by athletes. They look a little bit older to be athletes. They're actually coaches, the head boys coach and girls coach, I believe, too, for track and field at Cheney. Am I right?
Boys coach for track, but then both for cross country with we have co-head coaches.
Yeah. So boys coach for track and field at Cheney, as well as the boys and girls coach at Cheney, Derek Slaughter, and then from Mead High School, the boys cross country coach and distance coach on the boys side, Austin Stuchell. Thanks for joining me, fellas. How we doing?
Doing great.
Good.
Yeah.
So just before we talk about the big elephant in the room with the track season being canceled, let's just look back at the fall season because both your squads had a great year. I mean, Derek, I'm going to start with you. Cheney boys, GNL champs, getting back to the state meet, Boss Holland, top 5 finisher. Give us a little recap about that fall season for you guys.
I think the fall season was kind of the seniors, like Austin had. I had a group of seniors that really put a lot into the program. We built a lot over the summer in that group, including Boss. Boss put in over 500 miles in the summer, which is big for our program. We're not like one of those super high mileage programs. So I knew going in that we had that core group. And then we just needed to find guys to fill in after that. And the GNL is tough, as you know, being part of this last year. It's a dog eat dog world, just like the GSL. And getting that group to start performing was amazing. And having a Boss up in the front of races. I know he's part of one of your pictures that from the Highlander race that's super fun to watch, that Austin's wife puts on. And I think that it's cool to see them grow. And then getting the last GNL trophy, because the GNL will be no more next year, was kind of a great day. And it was at Mead High School. Thanks to Austin for helping us arrange that and go there instead of driving down to Clarkston. We all love doing that. So we had a great year, and Boss getting 4th at state. I know he wanted to win, but I mean, you're going against Elias and Kawasenshi, who is arguably one of the best runners in the last decade, especially two-way wise. It would be hard, and he sees him a lot. But we got 7th in the state. Great group of guys, and just like Austin, I got to find some guys to fill in gaps next year, graduating seniors as well.
And then Austin, for you guys went to the state meet in 2018. This last year, you guys had a really good squad that had the capability of getting to the state meet, but instead Lewis and Clark and Central Valley were in the way of that, which, again, those are great teams, but you were able to get 2 individuals to the state meet. So with AJ Paulson and Caleb Lloyd, talk about those 2 individuals and how their performance through the last 4 years you've been with them and what it's been like to coach them.
Yeah, I mean, AJ and Caleb, I got to meet them. Caleb actually wasn't even doing track when I came in 4 years ago. So this would have been my like kind of first crew of boys. So it was kind of nice to have them. And we kind of did try to acknowledge them a little bit here with the stuff going on. But this fall was, I mean, we had 4 seniors part of that. I mean, literally 1 through 4. And they tightened that up. And those 2 guys just, race in, race out, had that little bit extra something. And with Caleb, I know it was about trying to get on that podium. And I mean, Mead, I think it had been about, Andrew Gardner was the last person we've had on the podium. So, it was 10 years, like you just said, 2018, when we made it back to the state meet. That was literally 10 years of not being at the state meet as a team. Last fall should have probably recopied that. But some of the guys had, we're talking about COVID and sickness and all that stuff. And, and I'm actually working in healthcare, and a couple of them just didn't take some things seriously, got sick. So those 2 boys made it on, and I was super proud of them. I mean, we worked super hard. I mean, it was still like 20-something guys, 25 guys I think I had wanting to go down to the state meet, and we're training all the way through to the end of the season and help those guys end with 2 more PRs on that. That was our second annual new state meet course with the loop system. So I was proud of them.
Now, I've gotten the perspective of people, what they think of the new state course. What is your guys' perspective? And I'll start with you, Derek.
I think it accomplished what it was supposed to. Spectator friendly, but I think it took away from the speed of the course. I I love having traditions and trying to have people beat guys from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, I don't think that will happen with this new course. And again, prove me wrong, kids, and train hard and break some of those records. But I think it slowed it down enough where it's going to be harder to break some of those old course records. But again, we'll establish new records and new traditions, T-Pulls and all these guys that are going crazy right now. I think they'll set new times to beat, but it's not the same course. You don't go out in the back nine by the pond and kind of have your own time to yourself back there. So I think spectators enjoy it, but I do think that it slowed the course down.
And then Austin?
Yeah, totally agree with Derek. And one of the big things was, especially Derek's an 08 guy, I think, grad. Yeah. I'm 09. So we kind of, there used to never be coaches' boxes. So when you're out there, you never heard, that was really weird for me to come back and then be like, hey, you get a pass and you can come through. And the way they orientated it, it gave us this whole backstretch. Like he was saying, that straightaway essentially is now for the coaches, for them to be able to talk. So I think compared to other state meets, that was an improvement because there are other state meets where they can actually kind of mid-race coach to some degree. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to gain that. But yeah, I agree with Derek. It's sometimes traditions, it's hard to let go of them, especially good ones like that where you can compare yourself to, all the way back through the 80s, 90s of times that have been ran.
Well, it's interesting enough that you guys bring up the tradition piece. Your boys still managed to PR on that course. So, what did they tell you after that course? Because they know it's a challenging course with all the loops they have to do and all the hills they got to do. So, Derek, we'll start with you.
I prepare my kids all season for the course. So it's not like it's going to throw them off. And Austin would say the same thing with, setup meets and in the way we frame our seasons. I think it's more about the strategy on the course than the course itself. You could throw, cross-country kids into the backwoods of Idaho and they'd have a great time, but I think the big thing with that course is the rollers at the end. You go through the loop the second time and you hit those slight hills, and preparing your kids for those. And you tell the kids, you got to keep charging. You got to keep charging in that last hill. You already have to have momentum going down because everyone's gassed, but you got to give it more. They don't get that until they're there. I don't think you can emulate that very well, but I think you see the kids that do the best are the ones that charge those rollers. They charge, hard charge down that last hill. That's where Shea and Elias in our 2A race had that epic battle this year, and you see them every year. And so I think my kids like the course, but I think they were sad they don't get to compare themselves to their, past alumni that they used to race with. It's like Boss's freshman year, we were at state and got 4th. That course is no more. Boss's senior is a totally different course.
I know you mentioned the Idaho courses. I know exactly the CDA course. That's an insane course, especially since it's like in the middle of nowhere. So, and then from your perspective, Austin.
It was, I enjoyed that not too much of the beginning changed. I know that I went to a loop system. It's nice having those kind of time sections. Some of it's slow. It almost doesn't quite matter. Like you can look at the scoreboard, but by the time you actually get an update, you're already in at like lap, they're halfway through the second lap and you're still trying to figure out what mile one splits were and where everybody was. I think really good teams, you can tell the people that played it a little more cautious, especially a year ago when it was brand new. I think there was a lot of coaches and the way the group as a whole races. At the B, 1A and nothing against Derek, sometimes at 2A, it gets kind of thin up front a little bit. So, you have those really strong guys who just take over. But in the 3A, 4A, like when you're watching that, there's just so many, just because you have the numbers that are up in that front pack. I think a lot more of them played cautious because nobody wants, there's at any given time, there's like 5, 6 guys that can be your state champion. So it's like when you're really fighting with that and those guys are having that on the line. I think the first year it was a lot of caution, and this next year, experience speaks volumes. There's a lot of guys getting that next time. And I think that's why some of those guys knew what that weird roller, like Derek is saying, on that second time going through the loop, you're like, oh, this is a little different, and from when, I sometimes still think of the old state course when I'm trying to describe it and I have to like pause and go, wait, no, there's no going around the pond in the back. There's no none of that. So I think just experience and really just changing up the strategy. A second year in, people weren't so cautious, and I think they were ready to grip after it. I mean, watching Will Smith, I know I'm talking about LC, but like, he ran that extremely like methodical and it's like he practiced that in his head. He didn't look like he was worried at all.
And for some teams' perspective, they didn't even have to have anybody finish on the podium. Seahome, who ended up winning the state championship for 2A. So, I mean, like you said, it's all a strategy thing, and Seahome's strategy was to pack run. So it worked out for him in the end. Mm-hmm. Moving towards track and field, I mean, let's be honest here. How many of us really expected this to happen in this? I mean, Austin, you said you work in the medical field. So when you first heard about COVID-19 stuff happening, what was your initial reaction?
I was hoping that, our response would be better. And my whole thing is I watch bed count and stuff like that at the hospital. And the main thing, without getting into the other stuff is about, as the hospitals have the capacity to help those that end up getting sick. So when we started seeing numbers and projections come up, administration is going to immediately respond to that. So once the schools closed, I was kind of like, okay, it's going to take 2 weeks to even find out how drastic our response is going to be. But then as soon as you started seeing like NCAA's said, we killed our whole season, like that trickle down effect of those higher level collegiate or pros canceling their seasons, it was pretty much the guillotine for anybody else below.
And then Derek, I mean, yeah, it's like I said, Austin's in the medical field, so he kind of already had a perspective on it. But when you find out about it, I mean, you're not are you in the school at Cheney, or are you? Yeah, so you're in the school at Cheney and you're hearing all this stuff. What's your initial reaction?
So it was kind of surreal. We actually didn't have kids when school shut down. We had parent-teacher conferences going on at the school. And so it was a bunch of teachers hanging out, and we were 2 weeks into track, if I'm not mistaken. And we actually had record numbers, like 178. We were almost pushing 200 kids out for Cheney track and field. So I was super excited, ready to go. It actually was snowing. I remember this. It was snowing the day it got canceled, initially, where you stopped, you couldn't practice. So I was sending out reminds, like, all right, we in the morning I said we still have practice. And then Janesley got on and said schools were out 6 weeks. So I was next to my AD and I was like, crap, should I still have practice? And he's like, no, you shouldn't. So I sent it out, and people were like, well, don't you want to see your kids one last time? And in my head, I'm like, I'm going to see them again. Like, I'm going to see these kids again. We're going to have something. And I was optimistic about, getting a senior night in, because WIA were doing a good job of being optimistic. They were getting on the 2-minute drills, and talking about where they were at and trying to push. And then once they just cut it all, then it went kind of into like emergency mode as a coach of like, how do we honor our seniors? Because they had been in our program for 3, this would have been their 4th year. And those kids have worked their butts off. I know Austin's school just put out a sweet video, honoring their senior track athletes that I watched last night. And that's all we can do. But yeah, I thought we were going to get something. And our school is great. They let us, get a Google Classroom going and just send out workouts virtually to kids, just to like give them some hope. And I did a virtual track meet, just to get kids going at the very beginning before athletic.net got it going. And so I felt pretty prepared, but again, caught off guard.
So how difficult was it to tell these seniors they weren't going to be having a track and field season? I mean, the freshmen, sophomore, junior, sorry, we don't care about you right now. It's the seniors that don't get that one last chance at it. So from both of your perspectives, like, how difficult was that to tell your seniors no track and field for you guys?
I actually we have a farmer's market here up on the north side right now. That's where my wife's at. And I just came there from here, and I ran into one of them, and, and I've seen them. I've been out running. I mean, all the trails and, the loops we got, sometimes you run into your boys. And I think Derek knows it too. It's like, we're both coaches that really ran and even took this to the collegiate level. Derek ran too. And it's like, you got a lot of heart in the sport, beyond just feeling it for the kids. You know what that would be like if, I'm thinking about losing, and I know how my senior seasons went, but if I lost everything on my senior season, like track and field, like I don't even know. Like, I don't even know if I would have been really running in college. Like, I would have not had that ability to push myself one step farther. So it's like, you feel really good for the juniors that were like, had the ability to go push themselves up and maybe get to state or regionals or whatever it might've been, the GSL. But then it's like those juniors who were like, you know, on to that next step and were right to have their little breakthroughs. And it's just, the slate got wiped out, you know, rug pulled out, whatever. It's just, that's tough. It's tough pill to swallow. And it's tough to, you know, tell them, hey, you missed out. I know what you missed out on. You don't, but like, you have that fear of missing out. And it's a horrible experience.
I think for me, I started reflecting a lot on kind of the memories I had with those seniors. We went to Shoreline last year, and our bus got stuck in the road, literally like took the asphalt out of the road, the hooks. We tried to turn the bus around like too sharp, and it took us like an hour and a half to get out. But that became like the memory that every kid has. One of the kids actually got me a piece of the road and made it a trophy for me when we got it back. And like my senior year, we won Highlander as a senior group for cross country as guys. I'll never forget that. Like, there are moments cemented that are not state, you know, there are other moments along the season. We have a lot of team dinners, and the bus trips, you know, that's where you become a team. The bus rides to and from. I remember we went to Refredo one year in track. One of the years we won state, and the way home, the guys were all like rapping and passing it back and forth throughout the bus, like freestyling. And I did not take part. I just listened because I would suck. But that is the track season. Mooberry relays, when they cheer you on in the coach's 4x1 and it's your second 100 of your life, and you're in this singlet and you're like, what the heck am I doing? And Anthony Buchanan pops his hamstring, and Mead brings in some post-collegiate kid that can run a 10-1 or something out there.
Hey, we're all old men. We're all 25 plus.
But that's track season, right? I've been bumping into my kids as well, and so it's hard to tell them that, like, how bad you feel. That you have empathy for them because you've been through loss yourself. I'm the teacher. They took the classroom away from me. I'm just a virtual teacher now, you know, so we have empathy, but we don't know exactly what they're going through and how much they're hurting. But I think I can speak for Austin and other coaches, is we all care that they lost it. We all lost and we all feel for them. And I think that is the big message, is we didn't take this lightly, and we hope that they know that we will forever remember them for the 3 years they gave us in our programs and the amazingness they brought to us.
And I totally agree with that. I mean, I'm going to say an example. My mom, who graduated from West Valley in '87, she didn't have her senior track season because of an injury, not because of a COVID-19 situation, because of this whole pandemic thing. I mean, you got to take things for granted. I mean, life is so short, and like those little things in high school, it's only 4 years. And so for some of those kids, they're not going to be able to compete after high school at the collegiate level. But I still look at it, though, you can still, if you're a runner, you can still run after high school and do it for as long as you want to do. And that's what I'm doing still. I mean, I'm not running collegiately or anything. I'm covering this sport. I love covering this sport. And I was really devastated by the fact that there wasn't a season. Because one, I was like, what am I going to do with myself now? I'm probably going to lose my mind and like not have anything. Maybe like do these interviews on Zoom chat. I don't know. But at the same time, it's like we got to take care of ourselves first. But yeah, so looking at from the team perspective, though, Cheney would have probably gotten a trophy this year with the guys returning this year. So kind of talk about what we would have expected from the Blackhawks this season.
I honestly would have given the girls the trophy over the guys this year, because they had so much talent coming back in, returning state champion in pole vault and a lot of stuff. But once you build a culture and keep it going, you're gonna have success. And it's the root of your culture you built, but also kids come out, right? You have a winning team and kids come out. And so we keep building and we keep finding guys that keep running fast. Camden last year, you know, rips it in the 1 and 2, and he was a 1-year track guy. That was his only year in track, and we got him out his senior year and really helped us out at state. And I think Mead can say the same thing, is track and field is the best sport to find the most random kid to do amazing in. Like you can have the biggest dude in your school or the skinniest beanpole in your school, and they can contribute on your track team. And I think that both our schools are really good at just getting them out and getting people and making them feel like they have a spot. There are, 17 events. You're going to be good at something. So on the guy side, I always push for a trophy. Tom Strasser, a longtime coach at Cheney, says, get off the turf in Tahoma. Right, is you got to get off the turf, get on that podium. And we've been, rolling for a few years now. And so I think it would have been a great year, but I would have hedged more money on the girls squad just with how I was seeing them start in those first 2 weeks and the athletes they had coming back. So, but don't sleep on us for next year, because even though we're going up into 3A, I think we're going to rise to the occasion out in Cheney. We're not the little brother anymore. We used to be the little brother, and now we're kind of ready for it.
And there was a rumor going around that Boss was potentially going to come out for track and field. So what would he have helped with? I mean, obviously it would have been tough winning a state championship because of Eliason from Pullman, but he would have been in the running for a medal.
Yeah. Boss is one of those athletes that's good at everything. He's a soccer player. He's a runner. He's a lumberjack if you ask him, and anything and everything. He would have helped. He came out he played soccer his freshman year. He came out for a half a season his sophomore year and got 9th in the 2 mile off a half a season as a sophomore. So, he's got the wheels. We got Shea and Eliason in our region, but past that, you can't look over Boss. He would have helped out a lot. But we also have amazing throwers and jumpers, and we always find sprinters in Cheney. I don't know how. There's something in the water. Maybe it's airway heights, but we always find really fast sprinters, and we have great coaches. It's great kids and great coaches, but we've had great success with those.
Now, from a distance standpoint, of Mead's perspective, gosh, it seems like Andrew Gardner was the last boy to make it for the Mead Panthers. What were the chances, like someone like Caleb Lloyd making it this year for you guys?
I did. That's part of my statistician side of me is I think it was Will Medine, 800 guy, was one of the last ones to get in. So a little bit like Cameron Dean was a guy who went down to WSU. I don't think I maybe correct me if I'm wrong later, but I know Will Medine made it. So that's about like 7 years or something. He ran at SFCC. He's like a 150, 4.3 guy, I think, in the 800. But AJ Paulson was one of the leading guys in our region. I mean, next to Ian Barville at running a 157. He didn't get a finish off the season. Him last year, right at regionals, kind of fell sick. Finished with like a 2 flat, like still running sick. Mm-hmm. But there's only so much like Mucinex and whatever that you can give a kid to try and like open up the lungs and open up stuff. So he fought hard. Caleb had a little like a partial season. He came out a little late last track season. Actually, he didn't start running I think till like April. That little transition from tennis. He was a tennis guy previously. So with cross country though, that's what brought him in. And I mean, he was looking really good. They put in tons of miles over the winter. All the guys, even our juniors, had put in all this mileage, and that hope was to get them to be able to run off those boys. But I don't know, you got in the 3A or the 4A, it'll be really tough in that 2 mile. Looking at, Will Smith probably favors it. You do have that Central Valley boy, I can't remember his name. Hunter, yep, Hunter. So you already got 2 spots right there, and I honestly can't remember now if we were going to get 2 allocations or 3.
Jason, then it would have been probably almost impossible to probably get Caleb there because of those 2 in front of him.
Yeah. So, I mean, if he was the guy, make it to regionals, I mean, that's pretty much like a state meet almost in our league. And then you're getting on from there. I mean, if he could be in the top 8 or something like that, I mean, he'd have to be running sub 920s almost at that point. Because I think last year or even 2 years ago, it was like 907 and 910 made it to the state meet. And that was just 1 and 2. So you're just like, like you got to be, our boy up at the Gonzaga Lincoln guy with 856 or something, or 853 was his.
Yeah.
Morat, when he won it his senior year, he was 846, I believe.
Oh, 846. Sorry. And it's like that's a phenomenal time, but you're looking at just getting out of a region on the east side. I mean, the only region there is and it's like 9:10. And, 9:46 is now the new state leading time, which was Chris Lewis's old time of like 9:50. I mean, it's like, that's remarkably fast to be within 10, 15 seconds. And that's like what you have to run,
Yeah. But, and then from a team perspective, I know you're solely focused on the guys distance team, but what would the guys would have looked like overall with John Meyer as at the helm?
Oh yeah. Oh no. I mean, it's fun. I mean, Myers' perspective on that stuff. I mean, he's a great guy. I'm super humbled that I get to be with a guy like that and move into Mead like I did. So getting to run cross country how I want to run it and be able to come into track and his leadership stuff. I mean, Kobe Blackler would have been a senior. He got 8th last year. And I mean, you're talking about a guy who didn't even know what track and field was as a freshman. He talked about the other day about how he just saw that kid stand in the side of the gym, and it was like, you're going to come out for track. And he was just kind of like, okay, turns him into a hurdler. His like second year of doing hurdling, he gets 8th or 7th in state last year. And I mean, he was looking, he put the right kind of weight on. He had been doing all the kind of stuff that he needed to, like he got his own set of hurdles so that he could do some like stretches and whatnot. I mean, that guy was ready. Our pole vaulters, the only 6 pole vaulters we had all made it to the district meet. So, I mean, Flem with the vault crew, I mean, God, there was sometimes it wasn't even like an opportunity for somebody to score even 1 point in a dual meet, let alone even score a couple points in an invite. And they brought everybody back essentially. So Elliot Hammond, who's a junior, he'll be back. But I mean, you're looking at a guy potentially a state champion. Alan Strong, who's a senior, had basically done all this gymnastic stuff. We missed out on his potential, but he's vaulting right up there the other year. So a guy like him, he has all the strength in the world, just was working on his technique. So, for a guy like that, it kind of sucked to lose the season. And then our high jumper boy, Josh Allen, is a 400 guy that's just, he's kind of a basketball guy, and he really confined himself to high jump. He, that weird little jumper who doesn't want to do anything else. But that senior year, he was really pulling up into a leadership role. I mean, those first 2 weeks, he was ready to do 4x4 down in Richland. He's ready to do all these little pieces. And again, we did a workout, I know last year, and he ran like 54 or 55, just, we were doing whatever. And it was like, man, you need to do more events. And he agreed. We had some throwers. We just got a new, kind of a new throws coach. He was volunteering, and now he was taking over. We have some jab guys. One of Farr's like younger brothers, I think. Our 4x4, 4x1 was still looking good. Most of those guys that made it to the state meet, I think all but 2, which was like an alternate, are returning. So it was a lot of points that, seeing how the season might play out, 4x4 and that, that's, 5 or 0 when you actually get in there and you start doing dual meets. So I think there were some teams who were really, we were on the precipice of watching, which I think like LC and obviously always CB. I mean, when you got that many kids, I mean, it's, it's a fight. So yeah, it's hard to say exactly, I don't, not, some of these guys were basically that number 2 guy last year, but they were almost as good as the number 1. And now when a number 1 steps aside and graduates and those number 2 guys came in, I mean, we were so excited to see, it was one of those weird years where you're like, it's anybody's game to be the MVP. So.
Exactly. And then just looking back, I mean, this last Saturday would have been the state championship meet. So emotionally, how were you guys? And then like, did any kids text you at all saying like, I should be out on this track right now and doing my thing one last time? We'll start with you, Derek.
So we have a coaches thread that all our coaches are in, and the day of the state meet, one of our coaches sent out like 66, it would have been 66 and sunny at the state meet, perfect day for track. And it started just a bit of emojis and gifs and all this stuff from the coaches, because we all love being there. I mean, we love the emotion of the state meet, the highs and the low lows. And I didn't have any kids. I know for my kids thing, they were kind of transitioning to is getting graduation, because they already had it canceled. So like, I don't know if for them, if it was, and I can't speak for them but it was like they already had processed all those crazy emotions that had been brought up in the entire season. But I know for a fact that like I had one of our coaches, he our oldest coach is Tom. He goes out and he's the pole vault coach, and he'll like just stand by the pole vault for a little bit. You know, regionals were going to be in Cheney, so on that day of regionals, he was out just standing at the pole vault pit, being like, I should have had people vaulting here. You know, he had the returning state champion, you know, on a team. So from the coach's perspective, the one I know, we were distraught.
And Austin, I mean, again, you were talking about how this has been the opportunity for you guys to get some points, maybe get a team trophy. So what was your initial reaction just that day on Saturday?
I guess I preoccupied myself a little bit. We had, you know, we can do online coaching essentially. So I have a calendar all set up, and I did some modifications towards the end to accompany some of those virtual meets. And, you know, a little hard to get them entered in, but we were kind of focused on that. So I was getting some text messages throughout the day of kids running like a mile when they had that opportunity to. You know, it's like, hey, if you know, sometimes when we're off at the state meet, there's guys back home, and we kind of tell them like, hey, we're over here doing our thing in Tacoma, but it's like at 2 p.m., whatever it is on Saturday, they're running the championship mile. The guys would go up to the track, line up at 2 p.m. and, you know, almost pretend not while being in the state meet, but like solidarity with the boys that might've been competing, tried to go run their own thing. So it was kind of cool to see that in whatever COVID-19 way we could do it, to get those kind of messages. And, you know, there's one of the guys was battling an injury, a guy who I thought maybe could have at least made it to regionals as like only a junior. And, you know, he basically hit his PR running it completely solo. And, you know, it's like, it's kind of nice to see that stuff. But at the end of the day, when, you know, the quiet settles in, you get a little choked up because you just know like those highs that you're feeling, all that extra dopamine of watching a boy maybe just even toe the line, and how much he had to struggle to get there, and all the stuff that they worked through to make it to that point, regardless of the outcome at the state meet. It's like just being there, not having that. It's like weird. I've never not had a track season since I was in 7th grade.
It seems, well, that's long ago for you, man. I mean, I didn't even start track till 8th grade, and I love this sport. I wish we had a season, but just to see there were these kids over in Spokane. I mean, let's be honest here. We all know about it. It was in the Spokesman Review. It was on my website. It was on YouTube. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen, because this is something these kids are going to remember for the rest of their lives, regardless if the WIA says that, no, that's not good, or the governor says it's not good. These kids are going to remember it. So you guys watching this video that I recorded to put on YouTube, what were your thoughts on it? And I'll start with you, Derek.
I think they're amazing athletes. You know, I am glad I wasn't there. You know, I'm glad my kids didn't take part, because, you know, the next morning my AD, you know, was first to call me and say, hey, were there kids there? And, but I mean, kids from the Tri-Cities and past athletes, you know, collegiate athletes, and some of the best out of Spokane and the Tri-Cities came, and we East Side pride. I did run at Western in college, but I've all been East Side through and through. To see some of the times they threw down, it made me feel good. You know, Smith there, and Isaac Teeples, and some of these guys that have been on the podium at state, you know, running in Ian Barville. He was in actually my virtual meet that I had way back at the beginning. He ran a 1:58.800 in March. So I knew he had wheels. To see him be able to run out there is amazing, because it's a small, tight-knit community in Spokane and Cheney. I feel like we're the little extension arm of Spokane. Is you know, the kids, and it's cool to see them. You know, I wish that maybe it would have had, you know, 5 kids in each heat, and it maybe taken a little less heat if there had been more social distancing happening. But I didn't put it on. I had no say, and I commend the kids for training hard and getting the times they did. Again, glad I wasn't there.
Again, though, it wasn't put on me. It was all put on by the kids. Just want to clarify that for everybody. I was just the media coverage. But again, though, like, you're right about it. It's just to get those kids out there, because they needed that one last chance to go run something. And then Ian Barville runs 1:54. So, Austin, what's your initial reaction just seeing all this publicity about this stuff?
You know, it's fun to see those guys, you know, if they're willing to do, you know, as they say, take those precautions. But it's like those, you know, if those boys and those families are willing to do that, you know, that's their choice. And for them to get down there and do that sort of thing and be like, hey, we just love this sport so much. And I'm sure precautions were taken as best as they could be, you know, but to be able to actually kind of run something, you know, I don't think it's asking too much for those boys to, you know, they self, you know, ran it, got some guys, people to volunteer or help them, and they sort of organized it impromptu themselves. You know, the mile and that 800, you know, that's really cool to see. And I mean, it's like, you know, I know you guys probably all saw the boy break 4 minutes, our boy Leo down there from the Highlands. You know, they're doing the same sort of thing. It's just like there's no way you can really get the whole track season back. But, you know, now that we've, you know, Washington, we're in phase 2 or whatever, it's like there's that, you know, opportunity if those kids can do that. It's great. Again, Derek, I'm glad I wasn't there either. My AD called me the next day and I'm like, you know, I may recognize people in the video, but you won't recognize me in that video because I was nowhere near. So,
and I confirm these two were not there at the meets. So if anybody gets mad, I can say they were not there. But
West Valley would be the first ones to blame me, so it's all good. I like that. I like that.
Again, that goes back to the rivalry thing, man, we were talking about earlier. One last thing before we go, just looking ahead to this fall, assuming we have a fall season. Cheney is now the new member of the GSL, along with so many other teams. It seems like a super conference now. So what are the expectations going in? Because you guys are going up to the 3A level next year.
First of all, let's coin Super Conference and send that over to the WIA because maybe they'll give us the allocations we deserve. I'm hopeful because we can social distance in our sport. We can run meets differently. If we move through the phases, we are a low risk sport. The NFHS came out with different guidelines, and it sounds like cross country's going to have some teeth behind it to have. And so I'm hopeful of something. Again, there's so much out of our control, and so we got rolling for summer training. And I don't know if Auburn's rolling yet with summer training, but you can run in groups of up to 5, and so it's for us it's neighborhood groups. Find someone in your neighborhood and roll with them. And I've got kids already excited for cross country because they want something to do. Mm-hmm. And going into the GSL, I am super excited. I was a GSL kid growing up, and I always tell my kids about how crazy competitive the GSL was and is. I think each year there's maybe some ebbs and flows, but going into the GSL, when we first were in the GSL, we got our butts kicked in a lot of sports. We were back in the GSL kind of 06, 08, right when I was in high school as Cheney, and they were small. Cheney was a small school. Now we have almost 1,400 kids. We should be in the GSL. That's the truth. We should be able to compete with the 3A schools. And so I'm handling it that way. We deserve to be in this league. And I'm ready to go against people like Austin and his Mead crew and face these teams. It's last year we went against Clarkson and they didn't have a spot.
Nope.
I'm excited to go to a league meet with full. I think that only makes you better. Mm-hmm. Iron sharpens iron, and it might take us a couple just to being in the new league, but on the track side, I think we're ready. I'm not about track. I think cross country, it just takes and off. That is the great equalizer of sport. If it's hit the pavement in the trails, June, August, no matter what league you're in, you're going to do fine.
Now, for me, it won't necessarily be different because they're already part of the GSL. But in district perspective, a new threat is coming up, and that's Kamiakin. So to prepare for a team like that, I mean, what's that going to take to try to get on to the next level to the state meet?
Well, I don't know if Mead formally posted it, but we are because technically we're a 3A size school that has for years and years and years we opt up and compete at the 4A. Like Derek said, we probably only have 100 more kids than Cheney has, but on the guys' side, we have 100. I think the average is 117 boys on the team, just boys. I don't even know what the girls are. They're probably in the ballpark of like 70, or usually like they're fairly big. You know, I've had 55 guys, and, you know, and I'm looking at how I always compare at least team size with the other schools. I mean, CB is hard to beat when they have essentially double my size of a school in the 4A. But like LC, you know, we're us and LC actually were pretty like hand in hand, but LC is a legitimate like 4A school. They voted, and I'm not going to throw other stuff under whatever, but as a collective group, I guess the more coaches than not voted to drop down to the 3A. So actually Kamaikan going up, it's a little sad. I would have loved to, you know, I came from a team back in the day, not to brag, but like we won some trophies. We brought some stuff home when I was in high school. So like I love getting challenges and being able to do that. We'll just have to bring it a little extra fiery to the 3A. So actually, you know, Derek and I get along, but I know we're gonna be doing a little tit for tats the whole season. But we'll be actually in the 3A together, and Cheney as a you know, school coming up, and really Mead just selecting to stay in our grouping. You know, I think any school that chooses to go up, you know, especially non-private schools, we're a public school that chooses to go up. You know, that's a big challenge, but it's a testament to like how dedicated like the Mead families are, and just people in our community. Like when the kids show up for sports, they really do show up, and it's cool to get. So my biggest challenge right now till August, without being able to talk to 8th graders, is keep my numbers at where they were, regardless of what, you know, all this happens. So and get the boys trained up. You know, that's kind of the normal bit, but the new challenge is going to be trying to get our numbers to stay where they are. And I don't know if Cheney's going to have the same thing. I think Derek has the middle schools pretty close to the high school, but you know, sometimes that disconnect that you get. So I don't know how some teams might even have a little, you know, I don't know if we're going to find a low year. Cross country, usually it's a little bit track and field, I think, pulls some kids in. You know, there's those new kids who try out distance events for the first time, and they go, hey man, you know, I actually like this. Cross country is cool. You know, like all those distance guys are your cross country guys. Any like good team is having those people. So it's like, I just get to hang out with these guys again and go on like 13-mile runs on Saturdays or whatever. Like that sounds like, you know, okay, but we don't have that. You know, I think there's some guys I could have even recruited, but we'll see. I think it's gonna be interesting. There's a lot of changes, both 3A and 4A, and then really there still is a 2A. As you know, West Valley is just going to be like a GSL school, East Valley, and all those Spokane schools. We're just now a 3-league or a 3 classification league. So we'll see how we kind of work out. I think that's what we've I know Derek's been in on the coaches meetings too a little bit, and talking to our lead AD is how we're going to construct those meets, and hopefully, like he said, with the NFHS and how they're doing stuff, hopefully we're going to find out that we can have something of a state meet this fall.
Well, I've competed in a meet like that, or not meet, sorry, league before. I mean, I was in a 1A, 2A, 3A league, so I completely understand what you guys are in the scenario with the 2A, 3A, 4As. But I mean, if cross country is the only sport that they're going to have in the fall, guess what? That means more opportunities for people to come on out and get something to do. Because I'm going to guess all those football players, they're going to want to do something, and they want to stay in shape. So hopefully cross country is
just long routes, really long routes.
Exactly. Well, we might be there for who knows how long now, for the meets, but it is what it is. So I'm excited for the new GSL just to see what's getting started, and hopefully we do have something going on in the fall. So Derek, Austin, I really appreciate your time coming on here, just chatting about what your perspective has been for this whole thing. I mean, let's be honest, this is the worst thing that's probably ever going to happen in the history of high school sports. And again, we feel bad for all those kids. One last thing though, if you guys could just like give a little message to your classes of 2020, just like tell them one last thing, just give them a little sense of hope and whatnot.
So class of 2020, like you've been seeing, is you will not be forgotten, and you will be honored, and hopefully you are being honored as the weeks come by and graduation hits. Our kids graduate on Friday, and I just want you guys to know that we all care about you, coaches, teachers, community members, and as you go to your next step in life, whatever that may be, is take what you learned from this, And remember that we are social creatures. So find those new ways to be social and enjoy moving to that next step in your life.
It's always nice going first, Derek.
So we'll be in front of you in the fall too. So it's good.
Yeah, it's kind of been nice. I've been able to talk to some of the boys, but obviously I hope any of them that get to see this, it's nothing that we could have predicted. And I hope that it's not something that's a chip in the shoulder in a bad way. I hope it's something that challenges them to want to improve. For the boys, if Derek has anybody, I know at Cheney, but at Mead too, it's like those guys going on. I know dozens of boys that are going to be competing even in other sports than track and field, but they have that next chapter to look forward to. And I hope that they don't just kind of dwell on what they missed, but try to remember all those pieces that they learned and what brought them to be that, exceptional athlete that could get there. And for some of those boys that aren't looking forward to that next little piece as far as like athleticism at the collegiate level, I hope those guys that are going on, in the trades into, their college courses, that they really take for, not granted everything that we given to them and try to provide for them to have as like a team. We just missed out on having our inter squad meet at the end and reminiscing over those things of what it was like their freshman, sophomore, or junior year, doing our little blue versus gold. The boys make all their shirts, they're going after it. And, there's some stories I can only tell behind doors a little bit. And I hope those boys remember those things that, it's like those memories that you have, whether it was in the locker room, whether it was on the bus, whether it was at the meet, that, you cherish those ones and be glad that you at least got those 3 years to kind of take with you onto your next chapter.
And I definitely know the two you've had an impact on both your teams. So I appreciate you as coaches, and I'm a coach as well, a former coach at West Valley, and just seeing those kids finally just get that PR or just that last stride and like just being success it's a great feeling. So my thanks to Cheney High School head coach Derek Slaughter and Mead boys cross country coach and boys distance coach Austin Stuchell for joining me today on interviews with the Runner Washington. That wraps it up today, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening and stay safe through all this pandemic and what we're going through all right now. So bye-bye.